President Jair Bolsonaro warned that Brazil has gunpowder for when wars run out, in response to comments made by U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. In Bolivia, former President Evo Morales is welcomed in Villa Tunari by thousands of people in the third day of the popular caravan that is going across Bolivia. The envoy for the Russian president for Syria, Alexander Lavrateniev, said on behalf of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that the United States uses a double standard. Hello, welcome to From the South. My name is Gladys Quesada from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. President Jair Bolsonaro warned that Brazil has gunpowder for when wars run out in response to comments made by U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. Bolsonaro issued the warning, taking care not to name Biden after the recently elected U.S. president made reference to the destruction of the Amazon last October. At that time, when Biden was still a candidate, the Democrat threatened to impose significant economic sanctions against Brazil if Bolsonaro's government continued with deforestation. The Brazilian president, an ally of President Donald Trump, stated back then that Biden's remark put at risk the friendly coexistence between both countries. To date, Jair Bolsonaro has not congratulated Joe Biden on his victory in the U.S. presidential elections on November the 3rd.
We recently saw a great candidate for head of state say that if I don't put out the fire in the Amazon, he'll raise trade barriers against Brazil. How can we deal with that? We know that diplomacy alone will not suffice, and when wars run out, we must use gunpowder. Otherwise, it will not work.
And Venezuela's National Electoral Council began Wednesday auditing the voting equipment to be used by voters in the December 6 parliamentary elections. Sources of the electoral power said that the auditing process is based on a hardware review and also a diagnosis of the technology components that support the exercise of voting. The objective is to ensure the efficiency and transparency of the process. Random auditing verifies the functioning of the software and the hardware to be used in the parliamentary elections. Technicians from all political parties participating in the elections are involved in the process. The Venezuelan electoral system carries out over 14 audits before, during, and after each electoral process. And this year's hurricane season has seen a record of 29 named tropical storms wreak a chaos across the southeastern region of the United States, the Caribbean, and the Central America. The U.S. National Hurricane Center tweeted that Tropical Storm Theta became the 29th event to be named this season, beating the previous record of 28 in 2005. The Meteorological Institute was even forced to switch to the Greek alphabet after 2020's storm exhausted its list of Latin names. Later Tuesday, the NHC said there was a 70% chance that the 30-name storm of the season will form within the next 5 days. Experts said climate change was helping to increase ocean temperatures, rendering the cyclones more powerful, and that 2020's increase in named storms could also be connected to a regional reduction in air pollution over the Central Atlantic since the 1980s, as well as the La Niña weather phenomenon. In the Dominican Republic, the executive branch extended the curfew for 20 more days as a measure that seeks to reduce the contagion of the pandemic. The curfew established in the national territory by decree is extended for 20 days, from November 12th to December the 1st of the current year. President Luis Abinader, on October 18, through Decree 553/20, had extended another 45 days of the state of emergency to continue the fight against the coronavirus. The head of states also extended by means of Decree 554/20, as of the October 18 of the current year, 25 more days of the curfew, which expired today, Wednesday.
Se recomienda no llevar niños ni adultos. Se aumentará 2 días por semana, solo si es estrictamente necesario, para evitar un aumento progresivo de contagio. Pichincha, Manabí, Los Ríos, El Oro y Azuay. Los casos se elevan estrepitosamente a pocos días de cambiar al...
And Cuba will hold the first edition of the 2020 Business Forum to bolster its exportable offer and investment opportunities in the country, Minister of MINSEX Rodrigo Malmierca announced. On a virtual basis, the event will take place on December the 8th and 9th, and the portfolio of foreign investment business opportunities will be presented, which contains more projects and committed capital than the current one, noted the head of the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Foreign Investment. Along with it, some 200 Cuban companies will present their exportable bid with over 1,000 products and services, including non-state management firms. Both presentations, Malmierca pointed out, are identified with the country's development plan until 2030 and with the economic and social strategy to boost the economy. And we'll go now to a short break. Follow us in Twitter and stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. And now we have an update on Evo Morales' return tour across Bolivia. After midnight on Tuesday, the caravan arrived in Cochabamba in the center of the country. After visiting the city, they continued to Chimoré in the Chapare, the town that sheltered the former president during the violent events unleashed by the coup plotters a year ago. In the middle of the night, and with much joy, the delegation, that also includes former Vice President Álvaro García Linera and the ex-ambassador of Bolivia to the United Nations, Sasha Lorenti, arrived at Villa Tunari, very close to the same place where a year ago they were picking up fresh of soil dust before their departure to Mexico, with the promise of returning. And we go now with our correspondent Camila Escalante, who is currently in Villa Tunari. Camila has the latest details of former President Evo Morales' return tour across Bolivia.
Today, 1 year from the date he departed into exile during the November 2019 coup. He's back here in the Tropico of Cochabamba. Evo's caravan, which we are a part of, arrived to Villa Tunari at around 4 a.m. and somehow there were gatherings of people expecting his arrival, despite that it was a secret, and they were, of course, up overnight waiting for him to come by. The massive welcome home rally will take place before social movements coming in from all around the country. It's a celebration of the people's victory over the coup, and many figures of Latin America's left will be present. The presidential candidate of the left in Ecuador arrived this morning. He was received by former officials of Evo's government who have also made their way back into Bolivia. And other surprise guests have been rumored, but we'll have to see who comes. It's an important thing to note that not only are persecuted political figures re-emerging following a year of political persecution and exile, but so too are persecuted Bolivian journalists who fled during the coup, as well as social leaders. We'll stay with Evo throughout the day and bring you the latest as we move towards the final event.
And the Supreme Electoral Tribunal of Bolivia announced the date of regional elections, in which governors, regional assembly members, mayors, and councillors will be elected. Salvador Romero, the president of the tribunal, made the announcement during a press conference. Romero said the elections will be held on Sunday, March 17, 2021, adding that the second round for governors will be held on April 11th if necessary. The president's call for regional elections was made in accordance with Bolivian law, which establishes that regional elections must be convened within 48 hours after the inauguration of the president of the country and 120 days after the date was set. Finally, Romero highlighted that with these elections, the Bolivian electoral cycle loses.
There are 9 government positions. There are 337 positions for mayors, of which 5 will be chosen through the procedures of the indigenous population, along with more than 270 provincial legislators and more than 2,000 councillors, who will also be elected throughout the country.
And Marine Le Pen, France's far-right leader and president of the National Rally Party, stated Wednesday that she does not recognize Joe Biden as the newly elected president of the United States. Le Pen said to be waiting to hear what the U.S. justice system will say. The far-right leader said the game is not over and that when there are appeals, justice must be able to decide before deciding what comes out of the ballot box. Le Pen expressed her surprise to the media's unanimity and sometimes even in politics to rush to announce a result when there are appeals that are currently being considered by the courts. According to a new survey, 70% of Republicans did not believe the presidential election was free and fair, even though multiple news outlets have called it for Joe Biden. Donald Trump and his supporters continue to proclaim such problems without offering any evidence. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said that Donald Trump will remain in power for a second term.
It will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. There will be a
A week after losing the U.S. election, President Donald Trump remained shut up in the White House on Tuesday, pushing an alternative reality that he is about to win and blocking Democrat Joe Biden's ability to prepare the transition. "We will win," the Republican president tweeted. The message referred to Trump's unprecedented decision for an United States president to dispute a lost election, refusing to concede to his opponent and preparing court challenges in states where Biden won. Meanwhile, workers have started to build a platform outside the U.S. Capitol that will be used for the scheduled inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden in 2 months. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has informed in a tweet that he spoke with U.S. President-elect Joe Biden and congratulated him on his victory in the election, despite the fact that Donald Trump has yet not to concede defeat and Johnson has been quite close with the Republican. Boris Johnson told Biden he looked forward to reinforce the partnership between the UK and the US. Also, French President Emmanuel Macron congratulates US President-elect Joe Biden by phone following his election win. Like most other European leaders, the French president had congratulated him on Saturday and said he hoped to act together to overcome current situations.
And that the Minister of Transition is taking, which is to say, in a resilient and sustainable manner. We are going to invest very clearly in this fund in order to be able to...
European Commissioner for Health Stella Kyriakides announced Wednesday the proposal of a new agency to joint plan to prepare for the crisis like the coronavirus epidemic.
In the event of a health emergency, we need to rapidly deploy the most advanced measures, whether medical or other. We need to know the biomedical innovations that are crisis relevant, and we need to have the capacity to develop and procure and stock the necessary items. This is why we'll be proposing an EU Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The envoy for the Russian president for Syria, Alexander Lavrentinev, said on behalf of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that the United States uses a double standard at the Conference of Refugees that opened there on Wednesday. The solution to the refugee crisis demands the participation of the international community and that some countries stop politicizing this matter, said Lavrentinev, who added that the absence of the United States in this conference proves that double standard. Given the importance of reconstruction and its direct impact on the return of displaced people, the Islamic Republic of Iran proposes the creation of an international fund for the reconstruction of Syria, he pointed out. The conference will close on Thursday and is attended by representatives from Pakistan, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, China, Russia, and observers from the United Nations, among other participants.
Anche questo fatto, noi in questo fatto vediamo la dimostrazione.
Syria's President Bashar al-Assad said Wednesday Western sanctions are obstructing preparations for the return of millions of Syrian refugees on the first day of the two Russia-backed conference in Damascus on refugee returns.
Today we are facing a three-pronged issue. Millions of Syrians wanted to return, hundreds of billions of infrastructure units destroyed after being built over decades, as well as terrorism that continues in some areas. The steps to facilitate the return of refugees will be faster as the possibilities increase, and their increase is linked to the retreat of obstacles represented by the economic blockade and sanctions that deprive the state of the simplest means necessary for reconstruction and lead to a decline in the economic and living situation.
And Iran's President Hassan Rouhani vowed Wednesday to take an opportunity to lift U.S. sanctions against Iran.
Wherever we see the situation ready for lifting sanctions, we will use the opportunity. Our aim is to lift the pressure of sanctions from the shoulders of our people. Wherever this favorable opportunity arises, we will act on our responsibilities. No one should miss any opportunity. The US that dreamt of the fall of the Iranian system was itself humiliatingly toppled. This new gentleman who has arrived has said from the start that the US want to return to the JCPOA. Well, Iran have been in the JCPOA. We did not withdraw. The 4+1 has been here too. If the US act on their responsibilities, they can choose a new path, and if they do not want to, it is their choice. We do not tie our country's plans to their will.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas hosted an official memorial service at the presidential compound in Ramallah for the late veteran Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat. Erekat, who died Tuesday at Jerusalem's Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital, was praised worldwide for his enduring belief that negotiations could end the conflict with Israel and led to the establishment of a Palestinian state. President Mahmoud Abbas described Erekat as a brother and a friend whose death was a great loss for the Palestinian cause. Erekat was born in Jerusalem in 1955, but later lived in Jericho, where he will be buried following the Ramallah ceremony. And the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin supported the decision to strip 4 Hong Kong lawmakers of their seats on Wednesday.
We firmly support the Hong Kong SAR government in performing its duties in accordance with the decision of the MPC Standing Committee. The relevant decision of the MPC Standing Committee is aimed at members of the Legislative Council who do not meet the statutory requirements and conditions of supporting the basic law of the Hong Kong SAR and being loyal to the Hong Kong SAR. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China. The issue of qualification for Legislative Council membership in Hong Kong SAR is purely China's internal affair. Other countries have no right to make irresponsible remarks or intervene.
India and China are preparing a plan for the gradual withdrawal of the troops from the line of actual control FALAC that divides the two countries in Ladakh, it was reported on Wednesday. The proposal will be debated at the next round of military talks at the level of corps commanders, according to the website of the Hindu. The verification on the ground of each of the phases and surveillance with the use of drones will be fundamental to guarantee the compliance with the agreement, the newspaper added. India and China are holding a series of high-level diplomatic and military talks to settle the border dispute, which broke out in early May. The two countries' armies deployed tanks and armored vehicles very closely after an escalation of tension in late August. The gradual recovery of the economy and the control over the COVID-19 pandemic will allow Vietnam to grow 6% or more in 2021, local experts said. Duong Mang Hoon, a senior analyst for the General Statistics Office, recalled that although the gross domestic product, GDP, grew just 0.40% in the first trimester of 2020, it increased over 2% in the third trimester of the year. The contention of the COVID-19 pandemic allowed all sectors to return to a new normality. Hong added that another example of the recovery of the economy is the creation of 12,200 companies in October and the resume of activities of another 5,000. He added that everything will depend on the recovery of the world's largest economies, especially Vietnam's major trading partners like China, the United States, the European Union, Japan, and South Korea. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, if you feel so inclined, join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, my name is Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.